The construction of the Transcontinental Railroad, completed in 1869, was one of the most ambitious engineering projects in American history, forever changing the economic, social, and political landscape of the United States. For decades, the idea of a railway linking the east and west coasts had been discussed, but the sheer scale of the project and the vast, untamed terrain made it seem nearly impossible. Before the railroad, traveling across the continent was an arduous and perilous journey. Settlers, merchants, and fortune-seekers making their way westward had to endure months of travel by wagon, navigating treacherous landscapes, unpredictable weather, and threats from bandits or Native American tribes defending their lands. Others took the long sea voyage around the southern tip of South America, which could take nearly 6 months. The need for a faster, safer, and more efficient means of transportation became undeniable, particularly during the California Gold Rush of 1849 and the growing expansion of the American frontier. The project gained momentum during the Civil War, and in 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Pacific Railway Act, providing government subsidies and vast land grants to two companies, the Union Pacific Railroad, which would build westward from Omaha, Nebraska, and the Central Pacific Railroad, which would construct eastward from Sacramento, California. The government provided financial incentives based on the miles of track laid, offering more money for tracks built through mountainous regions due to the increased difficulty. Each company faced immense challenges, but their struggles were vastly different. The Union Pacific, which had the advantage of constructing across the relatively flat Great Plains, moved quickly, sometimes laying over a mile of track per day. However, they faced intense resistance from Native American tribes such as the Cheyenne, Sioux, and Arapaho, who saw the railroad as a direct threat to their way of life. Raiders frequently attacked work crews, burned supplies, and sabotaged tracks in an attempt to halt the advance of the Iron Horse. To protect the workers, the U.S. Army stationed troops along the route, escalating conflicts between the government and the Plains tribes, which would ultimately lead to violent wars and the forced removal of many Native Americans from their ancestral lands. The workforce of the Union Pacific consisted largely of Civil War veterans, Irish immigrants, African Americans, and former Confederate soldiers. Living conditions for the workers were harsh, with temporary towns, often called Hell on Wheels, springing up along the route, notorious for lawlessness, saloons, gambling, and violence. Despite brutal working conditions, extreme weather, and disease outbreaks, the Union Pacific pressed forward, reaching Cheyenne, Wyoming, by late 1867. On the other hand, the Central Pacific Railroad faced an entirely different set of challenges. Their route required them to carve a path through the Sierra Nevada mountains, one of the most difficult terrains in the country. Progress was painfully slow, as workers had to use hand tools, sledgehammers, and black powder to blast through granite. Later, nitroglycerin was introduced, increasing efficiency but also resulting in frequent, deadly explosions. The Central Pacific struggled to maintain a workforce, as most American laborers found the work too grueling, so they turned to hiring thousands of Chinese immigrants, who soon became the backbone of the workforce. Despite facing discrimination, low wages, and extremely dangerous conditions, the Chinese laborers proved to be incredibly efficient. They worked tirelessly, even constructing treacherous suspended platforms to drill holes in cliff faces for explosives. During the brutal winter of 1866–67, they endured months of working in deep snowdrifts and deadly avalanches, often tunneling through ice to continue laying tracks. Despite these hardships, their contributions were indispensable, though they received little recognition at the time. As both railroad companies raced toward each other, the competition for federal funding grew fierce. Executives engaged in corruption, exaggerating construction costs and creating fraudulent companies, such as the infamous Credit Mobilier scandal, which involved bribing government officials to secure lucrative contracts. Despite financial misconduct, by early 1869, the two rail lines had nearly reached each other in Utah Territory. On May 10, 1869, at Promontory Summit, the two lines were finally joined. To commemorate the moment, a ceremonial golden spike was driven into the last rail, and telegraph operators sent the message, "Done," across the country, announcing the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad. Celebrations erupted in cities across the nation, as the long-held dream of a coast-to-coast railway had finally become reality. The impact of the railroad was immediate and far-reaching. The journey across the country, which once took months, could now be completed in just a week. Trade flourished, as goods and resources could be transported at an unprecedented rate, fueling industrial growth. Towns and settlements sprang up along the route, leading to the rapid development of the western United States. However, the railroad also came at a significant human and environmental cost. Native American lands were seized, bison populations were hunted to near extinction to clear the way for rail expansion, and thousands of laborers died due to harsh conditions. The Chinese workers, despite their crucial role in the railroad's success, were largely excluded from the celebrations and faced continued discrimination in the years that followed. Nevertheless, the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad remains a defining moment in American history, one that symbolized both progress and the immense struggles that came with it.